Today we have Chloe joining our chat. And so please introduce yourself, your academic background, your current location, and your current job.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for having me, Caitlin. My name is Chloe. I'm from the class of 2023. I did a double major in economics and international relations at our beloved University of Toronto. After working right after graduation at Deloitte in economic advisory, I found a role in financial planning and analysis here in Miami, Florida, which is where I am tuning in from. Um, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, like I know economics cover a variety range of topics. And so during your undergraduate studies, what areas did you focus on?
So I followed the course load suggestions for the first 2 years because we kind of don't have a choice. But I really enjoyed them. So that would cover all of foundational microeconomics, macroeconomics, and econometrics. But then after taking the econometrics classes, I kind of wanted a little more of a taste of that. So I took all the advanced level econometrics courses, including the ones at the specialist level, even though that's not the degree that I had. I still took the classes for them. And then using the tools that I acquired in these classes, I did most of my research on labor economics and specifically gender. So during my undergrad, I wrote two papers. One was a multidisciplinary paper on violence against women in Latin America, and I used a humanities based theory and tested it using econometrics. And then this other paper that I wrote was for Eco 475, which is the last econometrics course that you take. And I did it on the effect of pay transparency on the gender wage gap in Ontario.
Nice, that's perfect. That kind of like ties with my next question because you said you kind of focus on labor costs or doing research paper. So um, are there any applications of your undergraduate studies or experience like in your current workplace?
So now I work in finance. So no, although I am the only woman in an all-man team. So you kind of see the economics of gender there and maybe something to do with, signals and preferences through observed choices. But um, with economics specifically, I use a lot of what I learned in school when I was at Deloitte, but I still think that you can't directly use what you learn in school. I think the biggest value of university is how it teaches you how to think, right? Like the critical thinking skills that you have, and specifically with an economics degree, like the rigor that you have with data analysis and the way that you think about things like causality and endogeneity bias. I think that kind of training is what helped me be successful at work, but it's not to say, I mean, both at Deloitte and in my current role in finance and I work in an international private bank. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but I think it's not like, oh, GDP is actually consumption plus investment plus net exports plus government spending. It's more like how school teaches you how to think, and then kind of with that knowledge and that ability to analyze data critically or to think critically about a subject is that you end up being successful at work, if that makes sense. But yes, you do have to know all the things at school, but it's like you're not going to be tested in at work.
Yeah, people will evaluate your grades from the workplace.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I also see in your profile you have a lot of student leadership experience in your undergrads. I believe like you're quite recent graduate, so like what are some extracurricular activities or experience you would recommend to students?
So I started off at Enactus. I'm not sure if it's still around, but it was a social entrepreneurship club where there were multiple projects, which we called portfolio, and each project had a social impact angle. And then we would basically just run the whole thing. And this was pre-COVID, so I would um, I would be part of the portfolio called Catapult, where we did financial literacy workshops for marginalized communities in the GTA. And pre-COVID, what that meant was actually going to these communities. So, like, taking the TTC in the dead of winter, walking through the snow, all that, to give financial literacy workshops, which included like things on personal budgeting or taxes. And then I started off as a junior associate in Catapult, became project manager the next year, and then I became president of Enactus the following year, where I oversaw all portfolios and helped drive like Enactus's as a team, like their goals and vision as a whole, and that was really fun. But what I would say is that, because I don't even know if Enactus is still around, I mean, I hope it is, but what I would say is that for you to be a student leader, you don't need a club to exist. You can just, I think, pay attention to your surroundings and see what the community around you need, and then kind of fill that gap yourself and not to use a cliche, but kind of be the change that you wish to see. And that's kind of what I tried my best to do with the Sheconomists, which was the peer network that I put together in my last year, because I had a few TA positions, and then I noticed this general trend where these girls, these female students who were so capable, dedicated, and they were smart, because I would help them. Like, I'd see that they'd be like highly intelligent individuals, and they would just drop out of economics. Like after Econ 101, I would never see them again. They would not come to Econ 102, and I'm like, what happened? And I would get mostly a host of the same responses, like, oh, it wasn't for me, it was too much math, or, they didn't feel like they belonged in economics. And I really wanted to change that, because I found so much joy doing my own research and taking the harder econometrics classes, even though I was one of the few women there. So I put together the Sheconomists, and we had a kickoff event. Then we had a mentorship program, and I took them to Deloitte as well to meet the chief economist and to have a panel on being a woman in economics and the work we did at Deloitte, and then just a networking session so we all would get to know each other. And it was so rewarding for me to be able to do that. But it really isn't this big, like Medusa-like thing that, Medusa-like dragon. Like, I just noticed a trend, and then I thought, like, well, what can I do to help this? And it's maybe just as simple as like bringing people together, right? So it's great if you can join a club, but it's even better if you just have that leadership built in you so that you can, be empowered to do something. Because I didn't do something like that no one else would have ever thought of, right? I did something simple. I just brought people together, but I think it takes a specific type of person to do that. So just try and be that person.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Like, be aware of your surroundings and see what's good and bad. Yeah. So, talking about your career, so like regarding your career, I believe like I see your profile. It's one that many of us admire of, that you are able to join Deloitte and then like doing something I would say quite relevant to your background study. And then so what challenges like did you face when you navigate your early career? I believe that's a thought of, like among many of us. And what led you to transition into like analyst role?
So I still face challenges. Like, I still think I'm at the start of my career. The challenges are not over. And I think if you ask a CEO, they will probably say the same thing. And that's not a bad thing at all. I think it's the whole point. It's the fun of it. A challenge for me, and I think a challenge everyone faces, is like inserting yourself in a labor market where you don't have prior experience, right? Because everyone needs a job before their first job, or if you're going to apply. So like, I went from working in professional services to finance, and I didn't have any direct experience in finance. And then same thing when you start a job. So what I would say about that is that you have to market yourself and show ways where you are unique beyond your previous experience, because eventually we all get our first job or we all have work experience, and then maybe you're going to be in a pool of candidates where everyone's like equally qualified on paper, and then you still have to stand out in some way. So what I would say is for you to really, or for someone to really try and develop like what makes them unique and what is really good about them. So maybe you're very curious, or maybe you're so passionate about a topic that you read up on it, or maybe you're just the person that when working in a team will be the one who looks out for other people. So, and that varies person by person, and everyone has like that. I think everyone has a special something that gives them that spark, or that that quality that makes them uniquely them. And even when you're like applying for a job, I think I really encourage people to find what that is for them, and then show that when you're in an interview, when you're in an application. And of course, like an interview might be just a 15-minute chat, but if you really have that clear in your mind, and if it's genuine, I'm a big believer that that kind of thing comes through, because when you first meet someone, you can't learn their whole life, but I think there are a few things that they do and that they say that are signals for, greater qualities or greater character traits. So I think just have that really clear, and then finally, like, don't be scared to take the first step or to actually try and apply. Just a short story to illustrate this. My first job, actually, no, my second job in Canada was an M&A advisory at Deloitte, just for summer. But the way I was called for this job was that I participated in a conference with Deloitte, and then they just called me up and they're like, do you want to work with us over the summer? And I'm like, yes, of course, where do I sign? And then I asked them, like, what team am I going to be put in? Because I was happy to go anywhere, really. And then they're like, well, we looked at your profile and we think you'd be good for this team in M&A consulting. And that was such a surprise for me because I was interested in M&A consulting, but I never even thought of putting myself out there and applying because I just thought it wasn't for me. I'm like, I'm not in Rotman. I didn't study finance. Like, what do I know about M&A? And then after, participating and spending the whole summer there, turned out I was actually really good at it because the way that economics teaches you how to think was really helpful for the team that I was working at. And then it turned out that it was great for me. And if Deloitte hadn't just put me there, I would have never tried it because I would have never even applied. So don't be that person. Don't be like me. Just apply if you are genuinely interested, and just shoot your shot because you already have the no if you're not applying, but you want to get that yes, and you're only going to get it if you try. So just try.
So true, yeah. Like the opportunities just come right near you sometime if you're not, you have to be ready all the time as well. Yeah. My last question is kind of like from your perspective, like last piece, like do you have some wishes to students? Like for students who either want to pursue economics degree or for students who want to like, navigate their early career as upcoming graduates, what are some wishes from you?
So I think a part of my last question was already that, and that's what I've been like talking about the whole time. But just to wrap it up, I think I'd say like don't be afraid to try. And there's this quote I really like, and then I try and tell myself it too, is that habit beats talent. Like you might look around you and just see someone as, quote unquote talented. Like this, whatever it is that the person is doing, it might just look like it's so easy for them and that it comes naturally to them. And I've been called talented too, and I'm like, what do you mean talented? Like I worked so hard to get like this, like especially for econometrics and even beyond, career or academic things. It's like building a skill takes time, and you really sometimes have to try again and again and again and again. But don't just try blindly, like try with intention, have a clear vision of where you're going, what you want to achieve, what you want to do. And then every time you try and you don't get it, evaluate why you didn't get it and what you have to do to get there. And don't fall into the trap of like, oh, it comes naturally to person XYZ, but not to me because they have talent and I don't, because habit beats talent every single time. And it might take long. You might have to leave your ego at the door, but that's part of the fun of it as well. So don't think that you're not cut out for something that you really want, because if you really want it, then you are cut out for it, because eventually you're going to outwork the person who's naturally talented. Even if they start off being a bit better than you, if you outwork them, you're going to be better than them. But don't get burnt out, which is what I do, and that's a bad habit. So don't get burnt out, but just try and be intentional with your work. And ultimately, I think that's what I would say, because it's rewarding to do things that you enjoy. And if you enjoy something and you don't quite get it yet, don't worry, you have your whole life to get there. So don't fall into the trap of that it's not for you or that you'll never get there. Because a lot of my path, I found was not like, oh, I want to go here and then here and then here. I was just trying really hard to pursue things that I enjoyed and to get better every day at whatever it was that I was doing. Because another quote I like is, how you do anything is how you do everything. So with that, I think those are the like a few building blocks to live a rewarding life. And that's the point of anything, it's not necessarily to have a flashy achievement, even though that's cool. The coolest thing is to live a rewarding life, whatever that is for you. So find it and then go get it, is what I'd say.